Hi, Dr. Gradson. This is a series of videos to answer the questions that you have. I know I offered to do this previously, so I'm just following through, and you actually sent me a list of questions, so I'm going to go over them one by one, and they'll be broken up so that you can actually pick the ones that you want individually. The first question that you asked me was actually a series of questions, and of course I can answer them all at once. What ultimately led to your dismissal, the complaint itself, or your disclosure during it? What was the dismissal effective immediately? What, if any, are the differences if you left willingly or you were kicked out under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or for conduct unbecoming? My story, I was in for about 10 years. I did public affairs and public relations in the Navy, and most of that time was spent, about six and a half years of that 10 years was spent overseas. I got up about 2/3 of the way through the enlisted ranks, and was I was under a lot of pressure because I was under in a management position only halfway through a military career. I mean, to make E6 and be right in line for E7 in the Navy in under 10 years is it's a pretty big deal, and it comes with a lot of expectations. You're under a lot of pressure. So what I noticed in that last year or so that I was in is I was facing a lot more pressures from the promotion, as well as all the things that come with living under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which includes not legally being able to talk to people about it, not being able to have a relationship, not being able to pursue a relationship where you're looking for a spouse. And I was in violation of the policy anyway, because I found people to talk to, found people to hang out with, and I had made a habit when I was stationed somewhere of finding a residence that was off the base and away from the base, so that I wasn't under the scrutiny of the of the people who would have known me, and that way I could invite whoever I wanted over to my house. So what I had was, I did run into some people who were junior ranking people who were also affected by the policy, and I would invite them over to my house, and we would just hang out, and everybody could be themselves. So even with that, I found that after a while I was hearing jokes from the people in the community that I was going to be promoted into if I kept going. And I wasn't about to back down on my ability to do my job. So when I realized how far I was in my pursuit of the next rank, I noticed the behavior of the people that I was going to be joining, because there's a separation in the Navy between E6 and E7. You go from what they call the blue shirts, which is E6 and below, and those are the people, kind of the blue-collar workers of the enlisted ranks, to E7 and below, which is the chief's community, and they're the management, and they come before the officers, but they're the ones who carry out the orders of the officers and get the blue shirts to do what needs to be done. So I was the senior ranking blue shirt in my office, and I was paying attention to these people because it's a completely separate community. They have different areas that they live in on the ship, and a higher standard of professionalism that's expected from them. I mean, there's a saying in the Navy called this is "Ask the Chief." You're expected to be an expert. What I noticed was their behavior was homophobic, whether they meant it or not. I was hearing gay jokes, and I had never really paid attention to it, I think, because it wasn't something that I was going to be part of. But when I realized that this was a community that I was about to be promoted into, I got scared, and I started thinking about where my life was and where I wanted to go and what my commitment was. And I thought, the Navy's core values, they say, are honor, courage, and commitment. And I'm living this lie. There's no integrity. And I think that it was a culmination of events, and I don't remember the specific moment when I kind of cracked under the pressure. I do remember the action, and I remember the specific moment, but I don't know what was going through my head or why I decided to do it. I sat down one night, and I just began writing, and I poured out this long letter that I gave to my commanding officer. I mean, I started writing the letter at 11 o'clock at night and slipped it under his door. And around 1 a.m. Obviously, he was not there. He got it the next morning and called me into his office and said, "Look, I've read what you have to say, and I'm sorry that this is affecting you. You don't have to do this. You can give the letter back, or I'll give you the letter back, and it doesn't have to be this way. You can stay." And this never happened. And I said, "Well, unfortunately, I've thought a lot about it, and this is where I'm at. This is what I need. I can't deal with this policy anymore. It's dividing who I am with who I want to be, and I want some integrity. I want to be a whole person." So he accepted it, and the question, was it immediate? Well, no, it wasn't immediate. I gave him the letter on March 7th of 2007, and his boss told him that he needed to remove me from the ship, so that once people found out, or if any rumors got out about what was going on with me, I wouldn't be subject to harassment from the crew. So they moved me to another command locally, and I stayed there for a couple of weeks while we waited on the paperwork, and I had to get an approval for a recommendation of an honorable discharge. That's not a guaranteed thing. You have two components of being dismissed from the military, whether you just get out regularly or whatever. You have a re-enlistment code if you're enlisted, and then you have your status. So my status getting out of the military was an honorable discharge, which is good. That's what you want. That's what everybody should get when they get out. But my re-enlistment code was an RE4, and it's an RE4 meaning that when the recruiters look at that in the future, if I'm trying to get back in, that RE4 will say that I'm ineligible to re-enlist. And in this case, there's a code that goes with that says it was because I admitted to being a homosexual. So I had to wait for all that to come down, and when I got my honorable approval for an honorable discharge, they did all the paperwork and sent me to Norfolk, Virginia, where my folks lived. And it took some time to get processed out, but I was processed. I admitted on March 7th, 2007, and I was discharged May 22nd, 2007. So that's kind of a, that's my story. That's how I got kicked out. And I didn't really lose any benefits that I wouldn't have normally gotten because I got an honorable discharge. So I'm still eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill or the post 9/11 bill for my education.